Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Fantasy for the Ages, a show where a father and son sit down and talk about things from fantasy literature. I'm the son in that equation, Zach.
And I'm Jim, the father. Great to have you with us here as we embark on another of our Midweek Specials.
It's going to be a special one.
As they all would be by definition, absolutely. This one is our first of a series that's going to focus on magic systems. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that all means in just a moment, but I would like to start by checking in with my son. How are you, Zach?
I'm doing great. It's really not been too long since our last episode, but one interesting development that I guess is also a development for you.
It is. We are recording this episode literally just a few minutes after we recorded our last episode. So same day, but a separate session.
But
and
between episodes, we got a delivery that we were waiting on. The sword that I got my dad for his birthday.
My birthday present showed up. Yay! We will post a photo on Instagram of me having fun with my own personal needle. Compliments of Game of Thrones, Arya Stark's weapon of choice, which was compliments of Jon Snow. It's a real sword, and I have punctured a cardboard box repeatedly to prove it.
And hopefully he doesn't puncture anything too more incriminating, I guess.
But if anyone wants to break into my house now, they have a surprise waiting for them.
So don't do that.
Well, let's move on then into our content today.
Yes, as you stated, we will be doing a magic system overview, review, and rating.
We're going to be studying a number of different magic systems used in fantasy fiction, and for our initial one, we're focusing on the Wheel of Time and the magic system created by Robert Jordan for this series. As we take a look at each of these different series that we'll study, and there are so many different magic systems that we can go on and on and on and on for many episodes on this, we will be discussing the system in general terms, but then applying a rubric to it.
A set of criteria.
Yes, in order to evaluate and be able to compare the systems against each other. We've subjectively created 6 different measures, things we believe we can actually measure about each magic system we'll look at.
Or at least measure as personally and arbitrarily as we feel like.
Because it's all about the fun. Anyway, we want to introduce the rubric to you now so you know what we'll be talking about after we've really delved into the system itself. This rubric will never change, although the measure of the rubric will change.
Fair. Exactly what it means and how we argue the various points may differ depending on the series and the day and your response.
Well, and the actual thing we count. See, there's a total of 30 something available for every magic system we look at. And we're going to try to be cute, funny, something with every magic system, something relevant to the system itself that we're measuring with.
Back in high school, I used to go see movies occasionally with a friend, and he and I had a system of just coming up with ridiculous things from that movie to rate it out of. Be it how many damaged tattoos out of 10 for Suicide Squad. It was ridiculous and dumb, but funny.
Well, for this first one, we talked about a whole bunch of different possibilities, but I'm just going with what came to mind first. We're going to be awarding up to 30 Fat Warrior Buddha Angreals.
Fat Warrior, Fat Man, Fat
Man, Fat Warrior. He's got a little sword.
It pierces the hand occasionally, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So how many Fat Warrior Buddha Angreals will this magic system earn?
All right. I'm down with it.
The 6 criteria points, you can get 5 points, 5 Warrior Buddhas.
In each category.
In each of these categories. The first one is on consistency of definition.
So whatever is defined in the quote-unquote rules of this music system.
Music system?
Magic system. I'm not drinking alcohol
Man, that
right now, guys.
Sprite's going right to your head, dude.
It's just Sprite.
But how clearly and consistently... Well, how clearly is the magic system defined,
but more
how
importantly,
consistently does the author stick to it?
Because those are 2 different points, and our next category is the clarity. Rather, how clearly do they define it? Because one section being...
No, not how clearly do they define it. How clearly do they reveal it to us as readers?
Do we know what we're talking about?
So the first one is more consistency to the story itself. The second is how well has that been explained to us?
So there's 2 off the bat. Both of those are out of 5. All of these are. The third of these is power.
Just sheer power. How strong is this magic in the world that we are evaluating?
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Fourth one is impact. How much does the magic system impact its world?
And, to a greater extent, the story that is shared with us.
The fifth one, practical value. What good does this magic system do in the world?
Both what is it possible of doing and what is it practically actually doing?
And the final rubric has to do with means of usage. What does it take for a person to actually use the magic? Is it easy to do? Is it very complicated or practically impractical to try to do something with this magic? How does it fall on a 5-point scale?
And while none of these in and of themselves define a good magic system, as a totality together, we have sat down and said, this is what we feel comfortable judging and comparing these systems on.
And that's the key. It gives us a means to compare different magic systems against each other. Before we can rate them on the rubric, then, it's time to actually talk about today's magic system. So we are exploring the one power from the Wheel of Time.
Specifically, then, the one power channeling and what that is.
Right. In the Wheel of Time, there is a magic source called the True Source. The True Source is the essence, the power that actually turns the Wheel of Time. Creation itself,
Yeah, it's arguably the power of creation.
And it is divided into 2 parts, 2 halves, Sidar and Sidene. They are known as a female half, Sidar, and a male half, Sidene. And the applicability of that is that there is a very small percentage of people in the world who have the ability to touch that true source and to channel that power, known as the one power. The males are able to tap into Sidene, the females, Sidar. Again, it's a very small percentage.
And it's not a genetic trait passed hereditarily. It's a general random thing that pops up in the population.
That's true. If you can channel, it does not mean your son or daughter will be able to channel. Though there is theory that genetics has something to do with it.
Perhaps, but in a more diluted way.
If you're going to be able to touch the true source and channel the one power, it comes about in 2 different ways in the Wheel of Time. Either you are someone who can learn to do that, meaning or you have the ability to touch the true source, but if nobody teaches you, you'd never discover that.
Or the alternative being, for one reason or another, usually because you are stronger within the power, you will channel. It's not a choice.
There are people who naturally will just
touch
the true source. It's going to happen. As much as they naturally learn to breathe and walk, they will touch the true source.
You may not always know what you're doing.
And I like how you said, because perhaps they are so much stronger. Those who naturally touch the source like that do tend to become the strongest channelers.
It's almost as if they are closer to the source themselves.
This inborn ability that will just present itself usually shows up in late adolescence or early adulthood.
It's like a second magical puberty.
Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. In the time that the Wheel of Time series is written, we have a group of women called Aes Sedai who are channelers and seek out other women who can also channel, and they teach them how to do it. And they also look for people who naturally can touch the true source so they can teach them as well, because the true source, this power, is wild magic. I mean, it will do things to you if you don't know what you're doing. And people who naturally touch it will die from it, usually, unless they're taught how to control it. There are a few lucky ones who will figure out how to control it in some manner on their own. But Aes Sedai are looking to try to help women like that.
Now, admittedly, at the beginning of the series, that looking in recruitment is on a lower end. It's not exactly full force efforted.
But that really doesn't have to do with the power,
No.
the magic system. So we'll stay away from that today. So that was women. Men, at the time of the story, they're not so much into channeling and such because
There's a problem.
there's a problem due to the story. Again, the male half, Sidene, has been corrupted. We're not going to go into details on that today. We're going to talk instead about what men were capable of doing without the corruption. The ability to use the one power, which men had sometimes.
What is the capacity of an untainted Sidene?
Right. So in this magic system, the term, and we've used it already, is channeling. If you are a magic user, that's what you do. You channel the one power. This is important. Understand, the true source is this source of power. And men and women who are magic users, what they're doing is they're able to tap into that true source. And the power flows through them. They channel it. It flows through them, and they use that flow to do things. Mm-hmm. Now, the one power, whether you're male or female, does not matter. The one power can be broken out into 5 powers.
Exactly. It's a little weird and confusing that one power is 5 power, but...
Yeah, in this case, the author just should have come up with some better terminology, but we'll roll with it.
And yet, at the same time, there are many real-world religions that follow a similar pattern of contradiction in and of amongst themselves.
Okay, that's deep territory I'm not going into.
So we'll save it for another day.
No, we're just not going into that. The 5 powers. They are, in this case, rather bland and normal compared to a lot of different elemental magic that's out there. You can channel earth, fire, air, sometimes called wind, water, and spirit. Those are the 5 powers.
Just to be clear here, you said it's kind of bland for elemental magic.
No. It's kind of bland
for
as
magic because
elemental
it is
magic.
Okay, there we go.
That's what I
was
mean.
just. It's
like
what
other
else
magic
do you have?
What magic system hasn't come up with the elemental powers?
If it's not elemental powers, like if it's elemental powers, what else are you gonna do?
So let me go into that clearly. There's no arcane magic.
No.
There's no
Magic
Necronomicon
spells.
in this. It's just these basic elemental powers that the channelers learn how to weave into different effects.
They can basically weave the pattern of the world as they see fit within their limitations.
Okay, you went...
Am I wrong?
You
No,
are
I'm
totally
not.
wrong.
No, I'm
they
not.
are not weaving the pattern.
You
misspoke there totally.
You gotta let me speak.
I'm commenting on what you already spoke.
You need to let me speak.
Okay, you go
because
ahead.
you clearly are not understanding what I'm saying.
Make yourself dumber. Go ahead.
No, the world itself is the pattern. People, everything that is going on, time itself is weaving and moving. If they are controlling something, they are maneuvering things in and around the pattern, changing embellishments as they go. You cannot manipulate the world without affecting the pattern.
No, they're not. The pattern dictates what they're doing.
No.
They are being woven into doing these things. Only Taviran
their actions are
impact
weaves.
and change the pattern.
They have very little conscious control of the pattern. Taviran don't. We're going to cut a whole lot of this because we're arguing about this rather than actually talking.
But let's get off of that and go back into the magic system.
Apparently my dad just thinks that when I say something about a magic world, he thinks I don't understand what I'm saying because he disagrees.
Can't believe you said that. No. So
your semantic terminology is not
they will weave the powers. Primarily, someone channels to weave one of these powers. That's the most common thing that happens. But more powerful things happen when they weave multiple powers together and do things. For example, if they are healing somebody, they normally would be weaving, I think it's spirit and water? Spirit and air. Which one is it?
I have no idea off the top of my head.
I have notes.
I don't think it's spirit. I think it's water and air.
I have notes.
I think it's just water and air. Spirit is integrated in with a later portion as a new form of healing is used that uses all 5.
In healing, spirit predominates, but air and water are used. Okay, so normally it's air, water, and spirit. However, if someone is talented enough in healing, they'll use all 5 of the powers for the healing. So there's multiple different kinds of healing that can be done, depending on how talented you are. And this goes to what this is about with channeling as a whole. Not everyone is the same.
No.
Not everybody has the same power in using the powers, and not everybody has the same talents.
There's different forcefulness of power and a different grace to the weaving, in that you do have to give a certain finesse to how you do things, and how you do things does impact what happens.
The weaving is an important term in this magic system, because somebody who's channeling is actually taking the different flows of these 5 powers, whichever ones they're happening to use, and they are weaving them together like they're sewing something. They're creating something.
Like they're creating a pattern?
Yes, no, stop it. Like they're creating something, not a pattern. They're creating a creation that has an effect. For example, one of the things that they will do with the power is create a gateway. Okay, this is something that allows them to travel to another location. The powers must be woven a specific way for a gateway to be created. So people who have learned how to do this will weave the powers and ta-da, there's a gateway. It is possible to actually take that apart.
They can dismantle and unweave it.
Unweave, that's right. If you don't unweave it, eventually it will just dissipate. But you can unweave it.
I feel like there's a better term, and I'm just not.
But that is the term, unweave it. If you, for example, don't want someone to be able to see what you did and follow through that gateway, you can unweave it, and it goes away much quicker.
However, you do have to be quite careful.
For the longest time in this world, Aes Sedai believed that you couldn't unweave a weave. To do so was very dangerous and would likely cause your death.
Face,
it would blow up. Yet other people who were using the one power knew, no, this is something you can totally do. So it's just as you understand the weaves, you may be able to unweave the flows.
Notably, there is a difference between unweaving and untying a knot in the flows.
Well, we haven't talked about a knot at all yet, so we should do that now. When you are creating things with the one power, some things exist only as long as you're exerting the power. Mm-hmm. Like you send a fireball. Okay, fireball done. And you're done. You just exerted that power.
But like with the example of you had mentioned opening a gateway, you can hold it open or you can tie it off so that it basically sustains itself for a period of time.
A more important one that this shows up in the Wheel of Time world is related to shielding. Now, I gotta explain shielding. For people to use the power, they have to be able to touch the true source. That's where they draw the power from. You can use the power against someone else to block them off from the true source. That is a shield. You have temporarily made it so they can't reach the source of their power. They are shielded from it.
It is not impenetrable or completely invulnerable, but it is a huge stopping force.
So here's a physical description. If I stand between you and the source of something you need to access, and I'm standing there holding a shield blocking you from getting to it, you won't be able to get to it because I'm in the way. However, if I just leave the shield there, propped up with some strong barriers behind it, and then I leave, over time you'll be able to figure out a way to get that shield out of your way. Initially, it's in your way, it's blocking you, you still can't get there.
But I'll find a way to move things to knock it down or find some way to get over and around it. And
correct.
I can circumvent it eventually.
This goes to what some people can do in this magic system with their weaves. If it's not something they're doing just for a moment and it's gone, it's something that they want to last, they can stay there and maintain it. They're constantly feeding power into it so it's staying vibrant and strong. Or they can tie it off. Tie it into a knot so it's static now. It's been held in place and it will last
so long as no one unties that knot.
Yes. And at the time of our book series in The Wheel of Time, people initially think if it's tied off and you're stuck with it. But then people figure out, oh, wait a second, that can be undone. It just takes patience, and you have to be okay with pain.
Yeah.
Particularly with a shield. If you've been
Yeah.
shielded, you can untie that shield and get through it, but
Probably
it will
won't feel
hurt you
great.
a lot. But it's doable. There are a lot of similarities between men and women using the one power.
Especially as we had described, everything so far really applies to both.
Right. But there are differences because Sidene and Sidar are not the same.
No.
Men and women are not the same. In general, men who can channel tend to be stronger in the power. The book series describes this, and agree with it or not as you wish, but describes it as typically men muscularly are stronger than women. And in the same way, men with the sheer power of using the one power are stronger than women. However, women have more finesse, more dexterity. They can do things more fine-tuned than men. Again, total stereotypes, but that's how the one power tends to work. The men have more raw strength with doing things using the one power, but the women can do things more intricately.
Is it stated so blunt? Like, it clings to those stereotypes, sure. But is it stated that bluntly ever? In the actual books?
I found excerpts. Yeah, it's stated that way.
See,
And it's played out that way.
I see some more attempted poetical imageries that demonstrate this, such as how the different halves of the power are described. And those bits come in that Sidene, this stronger half, this male power here, is a raging, forceful river that you have to grapple control over.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned this. We hadn't got to this yet.
But Sidar is a powerful current that flows through and you need to surrender rather than fight it. You need to be able to let yourself direct it rather than force your control.
This is one of the areas where Wheel of Time fans have kind of fun and head shaking as well, because there's a real sexual connotation in here. So men need to grasp the one power and force their will upon it. Women have to surrender and accept the flow.
I don't like this. This is the first time I've thought of this. It feels a little rapey and I don't like it.
But it's there, man, and it's not by accident.
I don't like it.
Okay, so men and women channel differently, partly because of how they are able to access the one power. Mm-hmm. And you described it very well. The men, they grab it and force it, and the women
Surrender and
direct it. So there are some natural differences in the way they use the one power to do some very similar things. But that said, we mentioned there are 5 powers, and men tend to be stronger in some of them, and women tend to be stronger in others.
Specifically, men, typically, are stronger in fire and earth, women in water and air, and it's a mixed bag on spirit.
They're pretty equal in accessing spirit. In the time of our book series, women are the only ones that are really doing the channeling, because again, men have an issue with the corrupted Sidene. So that kind of skews things. But we also learn about how it was back in the Age of Legends when men could easily touch the one power and could do these amazing things. And because of the natural differences in their strengths that are usually there,
And their styles of using it.
we find that the greatest things that can be done with one power were actually when men and women work together. And that's a key part of this magic system to understand. You as an individual can do whatever you have the power to do.
And you might be incredibly powerful.
But if you link with another person who can use the one power, you can do more than you would be capable of by yourself. Now, linking is not an actual 2 + 2 = 4 or 1 + 1 = 2. It's more like 1 + 1 = 1.7. There's a diminishing return to a degree
It's
when
the
you
law of
combine,
marginal returns
but
in
again,
a power way.
1 + 1 = 1.7 is still more than 1 by oneself. When people link and use the power together, they're able to accomplish the greater things that anyone can do on their own. Now, there's some rules here, very clear rules into how this linking can happen.
And throughout the series, they are explained.
And they're rigid. They're held to these rules.
Mm-hmm. The first and foremost is that only a woman can actually start a link.
That's right.
And this link is referred to here in this context, be it 2, 3, 4, more.
72.
It's a circle.
A woman and a woman want to link together to combine their powers. That works. A woman and a man wants to link together. That works. A man and a man want to link together. Not happening, because a woman has to initiate it. Women can do this up to a limit of 13.
Just on their own.
They cannot create a circle of 14.
It doesn't work.
The only way you can... 13 is the most powerful you can be. And there's a lot of power in 13 women linked together. But to go beyond that, you have to include a man, which is an interesting thing. Now, you can have a whole bunch of men in there, but you have to have at least one in order to include any other women.
To get to 14, the 13th has to have been a man.
13 plus 1 plus 13. So you can have 13 women, then add a man to get to 14. Then you can add 13 more women to have a circle of 27. That works. Those are straight out of Jordan's notes, so that's gospel. But I believe the largest you could reach was 72.
That's correct.
And the math is there on how that works. There's an upper limit.
Just trust that he wrote out the math. It's a lot of addition numbers, and it's kind of dumb looking, and I don't want to read it.
And again, the things that could be accomplished by a circle would just way surpassing what any one individual could do. Doesn't matter how powerful they are. When you are linked, you can do more. Now, there's an interesting thing that happens when you're linked. One person is using the power. You've got all these other people linked, but one of them has to be the one who's making the decisions, who's actually doing something. They get to access the power of all the people they're linked to.
And the power goes through all of these individuals.
But they're basically just channeling into the one person
and they
who's
get to decide
making the
to
call.
Direct things.
I want to make that mountain shorter. Okay, I'm using all this power and zzz. Okay, and that's how it works. The other people who are linked that way, they have no control over what's happening. The power is just flowing through them into the one person who's driving it. Now, that initially will be the person who formed the circle, which means it's going to be a woman.
But they can give that control to another.
That's right. They can pass control of the circle. And it's wise to do so because, and this is something we mentioned earlier, people have different talents. And the talents you have impact what you can do with the power even when you're linked. So if you have someone who's particularly strong with earth, a guy who's part of the circle, and you as a woman created the circle of 27 people, you don't have the talent for working with earth. You create the circle and then pass it to that guy because you're going to create this moat around the castle with the power. You just do that. That's how that works. There are, in general, rules for these circles that women need to outnumber the men, with two exceptions. You can have a circle of one man, one woman, or two men and two women. But that's it.
Once you get to 3 and 3, that doesn't work.
Any other combination, there always has to be more women. Why? Can't say why, other than it's a hard rule in this magic system. There are a lot of things you can accomplish with this magic system. We've talked about some of them: shielding, healing. You can manipulate weather. We didn't mention that one yet.
But initially, just about anything you can imagine with the elements themselves. Forceful effects, great feats of building or destruction are both capable. And then things beyond that, illusion, disguise, teleportation, healing. Traveling is teleportation. Traveling is teleportation.
Yeah.
Sure, it's in the sense of you're create a wormhole through space.
Oneness between two locations and you're walking through them.
It's still teleportation. Don't get me wrong here. If I walk through a portal and teleport across the world, I teleported.
Although
Semantics.
Teleportation means often you are...
No, it does not have to be spontaneous.
At an atomic level, disintegrated and recreated somewhere else.
No, that is your Star Trek perspective.
Okay, the sci-fi-ness is creeping into my fantasy genre.
In reality, it is... I'm going to go a little science and sci-fi here for just a moment. As we understand it, the idea of particles being linked even across multiple space is possible. It's where we end up getting things of an idea of a possible wormhole connection and bends in space-time. That's more or less what is happening with traveling, and it's even described in the book as making one place and another place the same place.
Yes.
And so by doing that, you are literally teleporting.
Robert Jordan was a physicist.
Exactly.
You know that? Yeah, so he understood wormholes. He got that.
This quantum theory is accurate to me saying this is teleportation. Yeah. We don't have to demolecularize.
Now, touching to sci-fi for a moment, I've always been more at peace with Stargate than Star Trek. Because Stargate, basically they're wormholes, and they're traveling these big distances by walking through this mirror-y thing, kind of like a Waygate. Star Trek, they basically die and are recreated somewhere else. There's so many issues with that. I understand why Bones never wanted to transport. Okay, it makes sense.
Anyways, back to the Wheel of Time.
We've kind of covered just about everything
with the one power.
Yeah. There is one other piece to the magic system in the Wheel of Time.
I do actually have one more one-power note.
Oh, then you better jump to it before we move on.
There are artifacts in this world.
Oh, we didn't say anything about those. You're right.
Augment power.
Good word. Augment.
There are 3 categories of these.
Only 2 augment.
But they do some different things. And all of them are tied to the one power, though not all of them need the one power to use.
The 3 terms are Terangrial, Angrial, and Sa-Angrial. What's a Terangrial, Zach?
A Terangrial, as I understand it, is something created by the one power to be able to do something cool and kind of magical, but doesn't always necessarily require the one power to use. It has an effect in and of itself.
Yes, it does something. Sometimes you need the one power to activate it. Other times, nope, you can just use it. But it doesn't draw from you more power to do its thing. It just does its thing.
It's more or less your standard magic item. Mm-hmm. A Angrial is more...
It's a magic item that you use your power. You must have access to the one power. And with the Angrial, you use the word perfectly, it augments what you're able to do. So if you were a power user up to a power of 10. By using the Angrial, now you're up to a power of 100.
And it may not be that it specifically makes you stronger exactly or able to handle more power than you would have been able to before exactly. The exact mechanics of how that works are sometimes a little bit fuzzy. However, exactly what's happening is hard to be described. But it allows you to go longer, further, and more amounts.
Yeah, I'm not totally sold with the fuzzy part, other than there is a slight fuzziness with the one power, and we haven't touched on this at all yet, so I'm going to touch on it now. There is a danger using the one power, that everyone who has the ability to access the one power has to figure out and understand for themselves. Using the one power is tied to how the creator has created you, in the sense that you have a certain level of ability. And you must learn what your ability is. Most importantly, what your limits are. And the limits are not the same for everybody. Some people naturally have less ability with the power, and some have more ability with the power. Regardless, you need to know your limits. If you try to channel, I'm going to back up a moment. The one power taps the true source, and the true source, as far as we know, is limitless. It's just this massive blast of power, and you have an ability to channel some of it, and you have to know what that limit is. If you try to channel more than your ability allows, it's gonna flow. It's gonna flow anyways, and you are going to blow out your ability to channel anymore. And the term they use is burnout. You will burn out your ability to touch the one power anymore.
And that's if you're lucky. If you're not,
it might just kill you.
You'll burn out yourself.
Yes. So you have to know what your limit is. And that's part of what Aes Sedai training is about, to find what your limits are and to sense that. And it's important to get a real feel for that, because now I'm going to tap into something Zach has talked about in previous podcasts when we've been doing Wheel of Time, regular stuff. Touching the one power is like a drug. It's addictive. It feels good. You want to do it again and again and again. So you have to learn your limits and then balance that. You must learn some restraint. Because if you just let go and do what feels good, you're going to burn yourself out. You have to learn that, yes, this feels great, but I can only do so much, or it will go south quickly and I won't be able to do it anymore. So they learn their abilities. And again, if you can do so much, then you only do so much. If you can do so much more, then you can do so much more. But you've got to know where your limit is.
And to clarify, when I was talking fuzzy with Angreal, it's because we hadn't really talked about limits in this. And it's why augmenting is a good word for it, because these are not batteries. They do not hold power in and of themselves, but rather they just adjust your limits.
Right. So if you already have a greater limit, an Angreal is going to let you go that much more. If you have a lesser limit, the Angreal is going to go that much more from the lesser limit.
Typically, an Angreal can be accessed by a channeler of whatever kind. However, there are occasionally differences between a male Angreal and a female Angreal.
That's true.
You do need to have one of the associated type of your power.
A man who holds a female Angreal will find it useless, and vice versa.
And on to the final part of magic items here.
Sa Angreal.
Which, to be an oversimplification, are just super powerful Angreal.
Yep. An Angreal will let you, if you are, to pick a random number, if your ability allows you to go to a power of 10, and the Angreal lets you take that to a power of 100, the Sa Angreal goes to 1,000. It's just a whole nother level that you can tap into without burning out. There's still a max, but it's so much more that you are now able to channel. Sa Angreals are rare. They are uber powered, and so that's important that they're rare.
And I would definitely have to check on this one, and I don't think we did, which is unfortunate. But I believe a Sa Angreal, while in addition to increasing the amount of power you can actually draw, most of the time has a limit built into it that will keep you from burning out. There are a few exceptions to this that were made flawed so that they do not have that.
I think both Angreals and Sa Angreals have that. That if you're channeling through them, you won't burn out because they are capped. It's like they have a governor. You know that term?
Nope.
Okay. A governor is a device on a vehicle that caps how fast you can drive it. You can't blow out the engine because it will only go so fast.
Well, that's frustrating.
Yeah, tell me about it. There was a governor on the U-Haul when we drove to Alaska that was set to like 50. Oh, it was horrible.
That's rough.
It was horrible. That's what an Angreal and Sa Angreal have. So there's a limit. You can do whatever your ability allows you to go to its max, but it will not allow you to go too far. You can't burn out using these.
So using them makes you both stronger and safer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they are relatively rare, at least in the time of our story.
Yep.
So now that we've
talked about all
much,
these things, now there's one side part of the magic system in the Wheel of Time that we need to give a little lip service to. We've talked about the true source and the one power. And then Robert Jordan decided to screw with everyone's mind and come up with something called the true power.
Thanks, Robert Jordan. Really appreciate all the naming. Very unique.
The true power is a totally different source of power. However, it's used in a similar manner to channeling. And the people who can touch the true power are also channelers, people who normally could touch the true source and channel the one power. But the true power, we're not going to go too deep here, but it's a direct power source coming from the big bad.
It is loosely a very powerful but very evil version of the one power.
And very addictive. We said the one power is somewhat addictive. This is mega addictive. So even those who can touch the true power are hesitant to touch the true power because it screws with them so bad. An interesting thing about the true power is that when you are a channeler with the one power, you can sense people's ability to use the one power, and you can sense when people are using the one power. The true power is invisible. No one can tell you're using it. It's not sensible in any way. Now, it's also not
It's also not
sensible.
sensible.
Don't use it, man. It's bad news. But in the Wheel of Time series, we see many of the things you can do with the one power replicated by the true power. Traveling, healing, all those things are replicated, but they're different.
They're in twisted ways.
However, and again, I'm not going to go deep into this, but if you read the Wheel of Time, the true power becomes very important, especially at the end.
It is a necessary portion of this magic system.
Absolutely.
And to be fair to the Wheel of Time, there are many more magical things going on. And we use, as the book does, talents with a capital T. But those aren't all necessarily tied to the specific magic system here of power that we are talking about today.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Talents with the capital T. There are special abilities some people have that are not tied to the one power, though some work hand in hand with the one power, such as healing. Healing is something that all Aes Sedai have the ability to do, but some have a talent for healing, and therefore they can do way more with healing than someone who doesn't have the talent. Another talent is foretelling. You can't just decide, I want to foretell, I want to see the future. You can't. But if you have the talent for it, it will come to you. You can see the future. And everything in Wheel of Time, the people who can foretell are all people who are channelers. But it's not that they were using the one power. It just, wham, it hits them.
I mostly want to mention this for any of you out there who have read the whole series and are screaming at us going, well, if you're covering the magic of the Wheel of Time, what about this and that and all that? And we may still come back to that another time, but that is not what we are looking at here today.
All right, now we're to the point where we've covered this. Let's rate it.
All right.
When it comes to consistency of definition, the degree of clearly defined rules consistently followed, where do we rate this one on a scale of 1 to 5? Again, 1 being vague, it bends to the plot every time you turn around, versus 5, it's a set-in-stone system.
So this is an interesting point for me. I firmly believe, and this is not a knock on this happening, but had Robert Jordan lived to see the end of his series, I'd probably be giving The Wheel of Time a 5. Instead, I'm in more of the camp of feeling a 4.
You think Brandon Sanderson played loose and fast with it at the end?
I think there were a couple characters.
He's using Jordan's notes.
And not all characters were from Jordan's notes. And one in specific is Andral. And there are some things that are exceptions that he does that we don't see other times. It's not talked about. It's not really explained. It just happens.
Okay, I disagree with Zach on this. However, my own feeling about the system as a whole, I'm content to go with a 4. So we have different reasons for reaching it, but I think consistency is a 4.
And I do want to state here, I love how the series was ended and how Brandon Sanderson took over, but I do personally think that some of the consistency in the one power usage changed.
So humor moment, I was earlier today looking at my books. The Wheel of Time series is one of the few series that I actually have in hardcover and physical books, because I'm a Kindle guy now. I've moved many times over my life and books are heavy, so I've gone Kindle, but I have these books physically, and I couldn't find The Gathering Storm. What happened to The Gathering Storm? What did my son do with The Gathering Storm? It was on a different shelf. I fixed that. It's all there.
Why was
now.
I blamed?
You were the last one to read it. That's why.
And I put it back.
All right. 4 for consistency. Clarity. How well is this magic system revealed to the reader? I feel pretty strong that clarity is good here.
Yeah, you do have to read the entire series to get the finer points of some of these. But by the time you've read 14, 15 books...
We understand this pretty well.
Even some companion material to explain better, it's very well discussed.
How about power? How strong is this? Man, by the end...
There are certain characters, even on their own, that I think could be a 5, as you put some words to go with your powers here, and it says godlike.
At the end, reality changing, man.
Yeah, the power, it does depend on the individual, but even a weak individual could do something godlike with a large enough circle.
Yeah, I think we got to give that a 5.
Yeah.
All right, impact. How much does magic impact this world and the story being shared? It's totally about the power.
I do
The people
say
who can't channel are peons circling around the others.
that's not true.
Except Matrim Coffin.
And Perrin Barra and a whole bunch of other people. There are lots of characters that are useful, powerful characters that have nothing to do with the power.
But still, if Rand, Nynaeve, Egwene couldn't do their thing, the others, it doesn't matter.
I'm not arguing with you that magic is not impactful, especially the one power. I'm just saying others are there as well. I am firmly okay giving it a 5.
Okay.
However, that's not belittling the effect of non-magic things. It's just totally. Magic is also a huge impact.
Yeah. All right, practical value. What good does this magic system do in the world?
This one hurts me a little bit because I have to look at what could it do and what does it do. And if we look in the history, Age of Legends, the power,
what they used to
deserves a 5. It was doing incredible features and wonders with joint men and women and all this stuff.
They've lost that.
But even those who regularly channel in this world don't reach out as much as they should. And it's often something that is remarked by characters as we could and should be doing more.
They still do a lot. I mean, they heal people. But they don't make food. They don't. So they don't solve world hunger.
Something we've already covered, and so anyone who's current with our podcast can be aware. One use of an Aes Sedai in Camelin is literally to maintain a rose garden.
Yeah. So it has a lot of practical value, but we'll give it a 4 for misuse.
I'd say past and future 4 to 5. I almost want to give it a 3 because it's so...
Because I know where it goes.
Grossly misused.
Where it goes. I think it's a better place. When the series is over, I'm going to give it a 4.
I'll let you talk me into a 4 for potential.
Okay. Our last metric is means of usage. What it takes to use this magic.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Through a lot of our discussion of the power, we talked about the pure forms. When we discuss means of usage and we look at it in the story, are we considering male channelers with the taint being there?
Sure.
Because that is an added complication.
They can still use it, just makes them sick.
It has problems.
Drives them insane.
And will cause disastrous things.
But maybe we should... Spoilers. Maybe we should just talk about before Age of Legends and just when people could touch it. Let's go there. When there's no taint involved.
It requires skill. It is something that some people
have to have training.
Need to have training to even touch in the first place. Some naturally can, but even those who naturally can are in a danger to themselves.
It could kill them if they don't have training.
I'd say for the danger element and the necessity of serious study and training, I'd give it a 4 over a 5 rather than a 5.
I'd almost take it to a 3. If they don't have training,
you know what?
They could die from it. So.
I was on the fence on the practical value of a 4 or a 3, and I gave you the 4. I'm going to drop down to the 3 on this one, just so that we balance the scores how we think are appropriate.
Yep.
We average those, basically. We give both of them a 3.5 and end up with a 7 across.
All right, we wrap this episode with a final score then of how many warrior fat men? I see
26.
26 out of 30. That is a pretty strong magic system.
And truthfully, for what we both consider to be one of the best fantasy series out there,
it makes sense. The magic system's pretty good.
It is not perfect. It has its problems, and
I'm not sure we'll find the perfect magic system.
But even on our definitions and criteria, you might disagree with exactly what we gave. But 26 feels fair for now.
Yeah, and they should feel free to disagree with us because everybody can be wrong from time to time. All right, that's where we'll draw this one to a close. I hope you enjoyed our exploration of the Wheel of Time magic system. It's one we definitely enjoy because it's a favorite series for us. We would love to hear what magic system you think we should do next. So feel free to contact us. Email us at fantasyfortheages@gmail.com.
Or hit us up on our social medias, be it Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or come to talk to us on Discord.
Oh, we'd love to see you in Discord. We'll have an invite for that in our show notes.
And if you really like and want to support what we do, you can always come find us on Patreon and support us at any of those tiers that we have listed there and gain a variety of benefits.
That's right. For a tiny little bit of money every month, you can interact at higher levels with us and have a real influence on our show. And honestly, it just helps us feel loved. It's a magic system of its own. All right, that's where we'll leave you for today. Anything else, Zach?
I just want to really say that I'm really excited to explore these new worlds, especially some that I may not be as familiar with myself.
But we'll get there because we keep reading.
Exactly.
Yes. All right, guys. We'll talk to you next time.